Welcome back. This is John Locke, and today we're talking about canonical tags, or rel equals canonical. Now this is something that is output in the source code of your websites sometimes, but there is a little bit of confusion about why they exist and what they do, so let's talk about that and how it applies to SEO. This page from the Google Search Central talks about canonical tags, and it says basically the reason why you would have a canonical tag in your source code is to differentiate between if you have different URLs or web addresses on your site that are so close to being exact that Google needs to know which one should be the page that they put in the index, the legacy page, the definitive page. That is what the canonical tag is for. I want to show you really quickly what a canonical tag looks like in source code, and I'm going to use this page from my personal site, not my Lockedown SEO site, but another site. And this post called Why I Changed My Positioning and the Thought Process Behind It, you can see that the URL is johnjlocke.com/2020/positioning. If you go in the source code, you will see right here that there is this line that says link rel equals canonical href, which is a link, https www.johnjlocke.com/2020 positioning. Okay, so keep that in mind. That is what a canonical tag will look like in the source code. This is output in the head part of the HTML, not in the body part. But let's look at this Google page really quick here. And it says if you have a single page that's accessible by multiple URLs, meaning it is a single page of content that is the same for all intensive purposes, and it's accessible by multiple URLs, or different pages with similar content, such as a page with both a mobile and desktop version that have two different URLs. Google will see these as duplicate versions of the same page, so hence you have to define the definitive version of that page. Which URL do you want to have indexed in Google? What should be the legacy page? This keeps Googlebot from crawling these duplicates. If you do not tell Google which URL is canonical, Google will make the choice for you, or will consider both of them equal weight, which is something you don't want to have happen, or lead to unwanted behavior, such as having one of these pages that you don't want to have be the legacy URL end up being it. Now, one of the things here, Google just said this about a month ago, redirected URLs are put into a cluster for canonicalization. So if you have 301 redirects, which is a permanent redirect to a page, this is how it handles them within the index. And the index is the set of all pages that can appear in search results. So the page is crawled. From there, they have a set of pages that can appear in search results. That is the index. So he said in a recent office hours hangout, John Mueller is a representative for Google. He's kind of like their public liaison, like one of their main public liaisons for SEO consultants. But he said they put the URLs into a shared cluster that we then use for canonicalization. And once they're in this shared cluster, Google goes through the duplicate detection process for selecting the canonical. The signals that they use are the internal links within your website, meaning like what URL are you using to link internally to that page. External links, like what links do you see outside of your own website, what is the URL being used, and sitemap files, other annotations that you have on these pages. So basically, Google doesn't assign weights to these signals manually. That's just too much work with the trillions of web pages out there. Machine learning handles it, as another Google representative, Gary Iles, has said. So basically, if you have a bunch of different URLs that 301 redirect to a single URL, Google is going to put them all into a cluster. Machine learning is going to use these other signals, such as internal linking, external linking, and different things to determine what the canonical is if you are not using a canonical tag. So why would this happen again? So if you have a 301 redirect from URL A to URL B, but there's a canonical link back from URL B to URL A, that is an inconsistent signal. And this happens a lot, and I will explain really quickly in a minute how that happens, why that happens. So basically it dumps them all into this bucket, and machine learning sorts it out if you have this kind of confusion going on where you have a redirect from one URL to the other, but there's a backwards canonical link. One of these URLs is going to rank. Which one it is, Google's going to determine if there's inconsistent signals or if you don't mark it correctly. So what is a canonical URL? Let's go back to this. It's the URL of the page that Google thinks is the most representative from a set of duplicate pages on your site. So for example, if you have URLs from the same page, in this case they're saying an e-commerce site, example.com $dress equals 1234, which is a parameter, or example.com/dresses/1234, which is a static URL, as opposed to like this parameter being passed in, like from a search. Google chooses one as canonical. Pages don't need to be absolutely identical. They can be close. Minor changes in sorting and filtering, and that happens a lot with e-commerce, of list pages do not make the page unique. Sorting by price or filtering by item color, it doesn't make the page unique. Okay, the canonical can be in a different domain than a duplicate. This happens a lot too. You know, a lot of times people will scrape content from your site. This happens a lot with blogs and articles and any type of popular site out there. There's scraper sites that basically they scrape a ton of different sites and then they mash together all this different content. And if they have canonicals, it might be saying that theirs is the canonical. Okay, so, and I want to express too, canonicals is different from duplicate content where somebody scrapes your site. If there's a scraper site that has, like, for example, if a scraper site took this article here, put it up on their site, and had a canonical pointing toward theirs, what would be the definitive version if there's duplicate content on a different site? Most of the time, it's the page that has the highest, we'll just say domain authority, but basically the most signals that this is the original, or the one with the most links or the most link equity pointing toward it. So scraper sites are usually around for like a year or two. They usually don't last very long. Sites that have been around for like a long time, they usually build up links. If there's duplicate content, the one that's across different domains, the one that usually ranks the highest is the one that has the strongest link profile. That's usually how it works. So back to this canonical thing. So Google chooses the canonical page based on a number of signals, whether the page is served via HTTP or HTTPS, page quality, presence of the URL in a sitemap, and any rel canonical labeling like we showed you right here. You can indicate your preference using these techniques, but Google may choose a different page as a canonical if the signals bear it out, which is most of the time that's not going to happen if you're doing things correctly. But we'll talk about this in a minute because I do want to address this, okay? Google may choose a different page as canonical than you do for various reasons. We'll talk about that in just a second. But here are some other examples of similar or duplicate pages. And again, if you have the same page basically but different versions, like here's a desktop version like a regular URL, you have a mobile version with a .m, or an AMP version with a AMP dot, or dynamic URLs where you have search parameters or session IDs where you have this question mark to pass in a parameter. Or if your CMS, your content management system or blog system, automatically saves multiple URLs if you position the same post under multiple sections or directories. For example, blog.example.com/dresses/green dresses are awesome, or blog.example.com/green things, green dresses are awesome. They could be exactly the same page. One of those has got to be the canonical if they're pretty much identical. And also if your server is configured to serve the same content for www or non-www or HTTP, HTTPS variants, you know, and again, they should all resolve to one combination of these four variables. And then also if you provide a blog for syndication to other sites, if it's replicated in part or full, something's got to be the canonical. Basically, you're choosing which URL you want to show up in search results. One of these has to be the one version of this page that shows up. You can consolidate link signals for similar or duplicate pages. Now, here's where I want to jump in here. Now, I've had people ask this question before in the past too, and I've had people say, hey, we want to rank for this keyword. We want to have all these, 5 or 6 or 7 different pages, but we want to then use a canonical tag, pass that in our content management system to point toward the first article in this set. Will that pass link equity? Will that pass the link voting power, or the so-called link juice? Now, a lot of people will say that yes, this method will pass link equity. But I'm going to tell you, I would refrain from using the canonical tag in that method because, for one, it's not what it's meant for. That's absolutely not how a canonical tag is meant to be. Will it pass link equity? I think you'll be disappointed in the results if that's what you're trying to do. If you have 5 or 6 or 7 different pages that are distinctly different content, they're absolutely not identical, they're not similar, but they're just covering the same subject. You're not going to force Google to take the link equity from those 5 or 6 different pages and then point them all toward, pool the link equity into this one article. That is absolutely not going to happen, and you will be disappointed if that is the tactic. What I would do instead is either make one big article or try and make each of these articles stand on their own for specific long tail keywords. You can use the URL inspection tool in Search Console to learn which page Google considers canonical. And even if you explicitly designate a canonical page using the canonical tag like we showed, Google may choose a different one for various reasons, such as performance or content. That's not common. If there's inconsistent signals, Google will pick for you. If you're trying to manipulate like some kind of thing like I described a minute ago, then Google will pick for you. Here's an article from Moz. There's a bunch of different ones on the front page. I don't have an article on this as of yet. Perhaps I will in 2021. This one talks about duplicate content, but it's talking about duplicate content if you have near identical pages on your site. It's not if you take a paragraph or two and then quote it in another article on your site, or if somebody scrapes, like I said, in most cases, like your original article is going to be the one that ranks. But what you should do is have canonical tags be self-referential, meaning they point to the URL that is the page. Any combination of things, like if I turned this into HTTP and took out the www, it should resolve to the same thing, which you can see it does. So it resolves to the same URL. So that is what your URLs should also be doing. Okay, my name is John Locke. My business is Lockdown Design and SEO, and like the banner here on the YouTube channel says, we're making videos 3 days a week. I would appreciate you subscribing. You can see how close we are to 1,000, so let's get us over the top. Here are some recent videos that we've done on alternatives to buying links, the Google 2020 core update, writing for search engines versus writing for users, the content freshness and publish date, and here are some legacy videos as well. Like I said, I would love to see you subscribe. We're almost at 1,000, so let's get there. That's all I have for now. Until next time, peace.